Still looking at a high rip current risk in effect along the east coast, and also a small craft advisory lasting through the morning hours. If you're planning any boating, any fishing, anything out on the waters, just use caution. Make sure you're being very careful. Let's go ahead and take the graphics here just so you can see what's going on here across Central Florida. Again, we are looking at the tropics. I do want to start off here. There you go, monitoring 3 areas. We'll start off on the far northeast, looking at a small wave there. Really nothing tropical about it. It may take on some subtropical characteristics in the next 2 to 7 days, but it's over very cool waters, so I don't think much will happen as we go through that time frame. Then looking at a wave, the National Hurricane Center has placed a 10% chance for tropical development in the next 2 to 7 days closer to Puerto Rico, but that area could potentially somewhat get absorbed by the area that's highlighted in orange as we go through the weekend early next week. Now let's go ahead and talk about that area there. The National Hurricane Center has placed a medium chance for tropical development in the southwestern Caribbean. It doesn't look like much. It's just an area of disorganized showers and also thunderstorms that will have a chance for tropical development as we go through the next 2 to 7 days. They placed a 30% in the next 2 days and a 60% in the next 7 days. Now, atmospheric conditions looks to be conducive for something to get its act together in that area that's highlighted. Now, in terms of steering currents, again, it's way too early to tell as to what it will become or the path or the intensity, but air of high pressure over the peninsula will help steer this area depending on how strong that air of high pressure is. It could end up in the eastern Gulf of Mexico or go towards Central America. Again, there's still a lot of unknowns at the moment, but of course, we'll keep you posted as we continue to get the latest information. Now, here's a look at the water vapor imagery. See that area of high pressure to our north and east hanging over the central Atlantic? That is going to help steer whatever that area out in the tropics turns into out in the southwest Caribbean. So we'll watch it closely. But as of right now, it is keeping our weather nice and quiet. All of that orange stuff that you're seeing there, that's pinpointing where the dry air is located. And you can see there's a lot over the state. Because of that, it's going to keep our rain chances nice and low, between 10 to 20%. So if you're looking for significant rain, we're really not going to get it today or even heading into the weekend or the next several days, as that area of high pressure will hang off of our coast. Temperatures right now are in the 60s and lower 70s across Central Florida. Wildwood, good morning. You're at 61, 67 in Claremont and Leesburg, 72 in Orlando and Titusville, and 69 in Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, and 67 in Daytona Beach. So here's a look at your forecast. We'll see plenty of sunshine, even though we are starting off with some clouds. It will eventually clear, and that's going to warm us up into the upper 70s by 11, lower 80s by 2, and then we're looking at 85 degrees as your daytime high in Orlando. It'll be breezy, as I mentioned, along the coast, but all in all, looking at a very pleasant forecast for today. Now, as we take a look at your clouds and rain forecast, a few clouds continuing to push in through the morning, but many of us seeing mainly clear skies. This particular model popping a few light showers, moving across our inland spots as we go through the afternoon hours, lasting through the evening hours. Again, many of us will miss out on the sprinkles, some rain, but all in all, looking at a really nice night ahead if you have any Friday night plans. And even heading into the weekend, early tomorrow morning when you're waking up, if you have any plans or even heading out to work early, watch out for some dense fog. Conditions will be, again, favorable for some fog to start developing across the area, especially near water. Temperatures will be at 83 on Saturday with a 20% chance for a few isolated showers. I can't believe it already. We'll have to turn our clocks back an hour as daylight saving comes to an end. Don't forget that as you head to bed Saturday night. Sunday morning looking fantastic. We'll eventually see our highs climb into the middle 80s. Monday looking nice too. Really no rain in sight as we kick off the work week. Election day is on Tuesday. The weather looking just fine to go cast your votes. Temperatures will be in the upper 80s, and then rain chances going up slightly as we head into our Wednesday and Thursday, Crystal. So all in all, looking at a pretty nice forecast ahead.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And I know we're all looking forward to taking those clocks back 1 hour, to get that extra hour of sleep. And I know you appreciate that being one of
Oh,
those
yeah.
morning weekend meteorologists. So thank you so much. We appreciate your update on weather.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, let's get right to that breaking news we've been following all morning long. That deadly mass shooting out of downtown Orlando, hurting 8, killing 2 of those. We're going to bring in Trooper Steve. He's been at police headquarters all morning long. You heard the initial press conference from Chief Eric Smith out there in Orlando. And what I noticed about this specifically is their use of surveillance video to locate that suspect quickly and take him down, Steve.
Most people, I think, man, how are they able to track? But when you're downtown Orlando, Orlando Police Department is using modern day technology to maintain some sort of safety in that area. And I'm telling you, when they were able to say he never went into a club, never went into a bar, they were able to backtrack his footsteps. This, we're talking a 17-year-old teenager downtown Orlando. They were able to see where he came from. The initial shooting took place. They were able to track him to the second location, and that's where officers took him into custody. Unbelievable, the footage that we are being able to share with the public because of the police department's current technology. And if it probably wasn't for that technology, we may know nothing about this suspect, and we could be giving a different story that now the city's on lockdown because some shooter is missing in action. But that is currently not the case. Chief Smith reporting and giving us that press conference earlier this morning, about 5 a.m. he did that presser, Crystal, and really giving us the details of what took place out there, they had over 100 law enforcement officers already out there for the Halloween security. They knew to up their staffing, and the brazen actions by this person. And I think that's where I want to focus a little bit on, because the security was in place. We're talking visible law enforcement officers that were there on every corner. And the video even shows this suspect walking past other OPD officers before and after the initial first shooting scene.
Yeah,
so
and Steve, the chief.
There's a mental psyche there that's just off.
Yeah, the chief said, obviously we don't have a motive yet. They're still questioning this suspect, which we have his name here. It is 17-year-old. Let me get that for you. Jalen Dwayne.
Yeah, I've got it here.
Okay, Jalen Dwayne Edgar. So he's being questioned right now. They say they don't have a motive, but looking at that surveillance video, they say he may have recognized somebody and it may have been an intentional act. But he had 2 separate scenes where he shot into a crowd of thousands who were out there along Orange Avenue, Steve.
Yeah, that first shooting you could tell because if you watch it in slow motion, the individual leans back and fires and then takes off. Now, that second shooting, that does seem a little sporadic to where that crowd immediately dispersed. But those shots were taken within feet of Orlando police officers. And when you watch it, you've got to watch it a few times because it happens very quickly. It happens very quickly. Yeah. And it's rapid. And those law enforcement officers all immediately take a little bit of a cover to kind of see what's taking place out there. And they identify that this is the shooter that just took place maybe a couple of 100 feet from where that second shooting. This was not a far gap, Crystal, from the first shooting outside on Orange Avenue to just down the road. I do believe a little closer to Central. But looking at that surveillance video, how fast they were on top of that suspect. And then even on this one, where the shooting took place, but the officers are running to the downed individual to render aid when they don't even know where a suspect is currently at. And that just shows you the mentality of these law enforcement officers out there at night. And, maybe sometimes they're not trying to have a conversation with you, but it's because they're remaining vigilant. They're trying to maintain some sort of order for
Right.
situations like this, Crystal.
Right. And Steve, you have a lot of experience in this and training because you are a law enforcement officer. So when we're dealing with thousands of people downtown for a special event like Halloween, some people are probably wondering, why did those officers not open fire and shoot at the gunman?
That is the such an amazing question, and I'm glad that here at News 6 we're asking that question, because a lot of people aren't going to know the answer to that. We are. So let's paint a picture here. Just because we have a weapon that is on our side that can render deadly force does not automatically mean that that is the required force needed. Yes, you are in a deadly force situation, but you cannot just use that tool without using it responsibly, without understanding your backdrop of your target. What do I mean by that? So if that individual in the yellow kind of attire was the suspect and he did even display a firearm at the time,
Hmm.
yes, that is an immediate threat. But law enforcement, not like you or someone else that defending yourself, law enforcement has to understand what is behind that target. And when you see that, yes, I'm going to send around, we train, I'm going to try to stop and eliminate this threat and do whatever I can to stop them from doing what they're doing. But if I miss, if I fire multiple rounds, what is behind that person? Am I going to hit an innocent bystander? Is there a business behind this individual? So we have to take that kind of process in our brain in a split second decision to understand, am I going to discharge my firearm, or am I going to put myself, my body, directly in threat's way to stop this threat? And that is what you saw, Crystal. You saw them. You can see the initial, all right, we have somebody here. They draw on the individual, but I can't fire because there are people everywhere. They reholster, and that officer goes hands on with that suspect and tackles him to the ground, and then backed up by multiple officers immediately after that. That goes to show you how many cops were present, and yet this 17-year-old still opened fire on multiple people. We're talking 8 people totally hit, 2 killed by the hands of this individual, and 6 now in the hospital. So, Crystal, the mental training, the psyche behind these patrol officers that are out on the street is incredible to see that they did not just open fire, because if not, we would be dealing with a lot more casualties, likely.
Yeah, Chief Smith said, they were prepared for this event. They had 100 officers responding out there to this incident. So it's not the lack of officers there. But I do want to get to this press conference, Steve, because you were out there and we were learning a little bit more about this suspect, 17-year-old Jalen Edgar. State Attorney Bain was out there and actually said that there was a prior arrest of this suspect for auto theft. So is there anything going into the talks of potential charges because he is a minor?
Um, it was interesting that you brought up the state attorney, because he was present there. He wasn't part of the conference, but it's because of News 6 that he got up there. I knew he was there, and I asked him before I asked him the question, state attorney, would you mind getting up? And he said, absolutely not. So I wanted to understand, because we were dealing with a 17-year-old, what are we looking at here? And yeah, he was arrested for grand theft in 2023, so a year ago, and probably at 16 years old, likely, and now arrested for what will likely be some serious felony murder charges. And Andrew Bain, our state attorney here in Central Florida, clearly said that they will follow this completely through, that they will charge accordingly. And I think, Crystal, you and I have been doing this long enough to see this, see the video, see the response, see the press conference, understand how many lives have been affected by this. It's probably highly likely this 17-year-old will be charged as an adult.
Yeah, this is just outrageous to watch. I mean, we cover things like this sometimes, but we're from here, so we have friends who might have been out there during that time, and this is just after 1 a.m. So right before all of those bars and clubs are shutting down, so you have just a larger amount of folks out in the streets, either doing the last call or heading out to their vehicles, not expecting for some of their friends or family not to come home today.
It's insane because looking at it, we have been talking about the security in downtown Orlando for years, Crystal. Whether it was the moratoriums that have
Yeah.
been put in,
And let's
whether
talk
it
about
was the
that, Steve,
requirement,
because
yeah,
that
whether it was
moratorium
the
just
requirements,
expired.
right? And could that have led to something? We don't know. But I was speaking to a law enforcement officer and not naming name or agency, but they reminded me of something. The new constitutional carry. That, at this point, limits some law enforcement activity in securing downtown Orlando. I will say, as a caveat, this 17-year-old should have never had a firearm on their person at all, whether legally, there is no legal grounds for a 17-year-old to have a fire on them. I'll say that. But we have been covering the lack of security or the need of increased security in downtown because we've had the 4th of July incident. We've had
Mm-hmm.
multiple shootings in downtown, whether
Yeah.
suspect involved or officer involved. Heck, we had Chief Smith second on scene of a shooting just, I believe, last year in downtown Orlando. So this is something that I think is going to come up again. I think we're probably going to be reporting on security in downtown Orlando yet again. But I've got to defend my law enforcement officers here when I say there's nothing else that I think anybody could have done. I did ask Chief Smith during the press conference, what do you have to say to the fact that this individual is 17 years old and he's out in downtown Orlando at 1 o'clock in the morning? This is obviously not no adult there at scene. A cop didn't put this firearm in their hand. So what do you have to say to the parents and to the community? And he kind of said, we need to kind of backtrack to the community perspective. If you're aware of teenagers that have firearms, you need to open your mouth because then situations like this happen.
Yeah, and the issue of violence in downtown Orlando has been in the talks for many years. I mean, we've talked to those bar owners who are concerned about they're just trying to make ends meet here and having to spend extra money on security. It's just not in their budget. And then on the other hand, you had city commissioners who put that moratorium in place saying, we're not going to open any more bars and we're going to put a limit on alcohol sales. Now, that expired in September, but they
Right.
reinstated some of those guidelines saying, we're not going to let you open any new bars within 300 feet, and we're not going to let any more, bars expand within 300 feet. And we're still seeing issues like this happen. So it's like they're trying to implement all these guidelines from every perspective, but we're still seeing this happen. I mean, what do you think?
I think it's a never ending cycle, Crystal. It seems that we need to almost get the community way more involved than what is actually happening. Everything that the community has asked when it comes to security perspectives has been implemented. Think about this. We're talking just downtown Orlando, Orange Avenue, Wall Street area, Church Street. Over 100 law enforcement officers were already present. The suspect walked by people, walked by cameras. He knew that the security was there. To say what else could we do is the $1 million question because we've asked law enforcement to increase their security and tactics. They've done it. They have the technology. We've asked the
Mm-hmm.
city to do certain things. And then, unfortunately, now we've even been asking private businesses to do their own security.
Yeah.
There needs to be some sort of cohesive understanding of what's happening because, in my personal opinion, it seems like you have 3 or 4 different units, whether it's the city, the police department, and the bars. They're all trying their best, but they're not focused on as one unit because everyone's always the businesses are going to suffer if they have to pay for the security. The law enforcement is going to suffer if they have to up staffing. And so it's like a never ending kind of situation here that we're trying to combat because it seems like every 6 months we're reporting on something like this.
Yeah, it's sad to hear. And, prayers to all the families, but hopefully something can be done. It's just crazy that, people can't go out, young people can't go out and have a good time on Halloween and make it home safe. And, we'll find out what's going to happen with the suspect, if he's going to have a first appearance today or later on this afternoon. As soon as we get some more information, of course, we'll cover it right here on News 6 and we'll have that on clickorlando.com. Steve, we always appreciate your perspective on this. You have a lot of experience being in law enforcement. So thank you so much for being out there and to giving us all this information.
Thank you, Crystal. I'll keep you updated soon.
All right, thanks. Be safe. All right, so as we mentioned, 8 people were hit by gunfire, 2 passed away, 6 are at Orlando Regional Medical Center right now, recovering from injuries after being shot. Our News 6 reporter, Angie Casada, has been outside of that hospital all morning long, speaking with some of those family and friends who were still waiting to learn the conditions of their loved ones this morning.
Yeah, Crystal, it was pretty insane. And it really hit home how you and Steve were saying, being from this area and having so many loved ones myself, and being someone that used to go to downtown Orlando all the time. It was like a
Yeah.
tradition after Halloween. First thing I did this morning, as soon as I heard what happened, I called 3 of my friends, and I actually reached out to a cousin who works downtown in Orlando because of just out of fear, not knowing where their whereabouts were, if they were in the area, and just wanting to make sure that they were okay. So this definitely hits home, um, big time. When we arrived here at Orlando Regional Medical Center, there were so many people outside waiting, just to know what the conditions were for their loved ones. Some of them were with them when they were shot. Um, Even having like Halloween costumes, you could tell there was a lot of like students coming from UCF, just individuals that were celebrating Halloween. They came out, they were here waiting outside, of the ER.
Hmm.
And I also came across a lot of, mothers and brothers and sisters that got a call from either a friend that their either son or daughter was shot, and that's all they knew. They had no idea what their conditions were. They were stuck outside because the hospital was on lockdown, so they were not allowed inside. I was told that they just gave their names, but they didn't hear anything else. And from there, one of the moms was frantic. She said that she didn't hear from her son since he left to go downtown Orlando, that he
Hmm.
was considered missing, that they didn't hear from him, they didn't know his whereabouts. And she was just frantic, saying that she was almost having a panic attack. And then we met another mother who, it was a sister and brother who I spoke with first, and they said that their brother had been shot. He's 25 years old, and they had a video. And this is what kind of like probably got really emotional for me, because of seeing that video footage, um, of the son or their brother just laying on the ground. And one of the biggest things is that, his sister is a nurse, and she made the comment that he was limp, and that it did not look good. I don't know who their brother is in this situation, if he was the intended victim or if he was the intended target. I'm not sure who he is in this, or he just got hit by a stray bullet. Um, but he was shot, and the mother arrived on the scene, and she made a comment to both of them that she already contacted a funeral home. Again, not knowing the condition of this son. Of course, the siblings were telling her not to speak like that, not to feel that way, that they don't know his conditions, that, they spoke on their faith, and saying that they were in prayer and that believing that he was going to be okay. That is all I heard from that. Then we came across a UCF student who, was said that he was out with a few of his friends. They were leaving a Taco Bell when they heard shots that were fired. Once those shots were fired, his friend jumped on top of him and another girl, covering them, almost like shielding him, he said. And he was just hugging on them, literally laying on top of him, he said. And he said that he started feeling almost like something warm go down his leg, and he didn't know if he was the one that was shot. Of course, they had been drinking the whole nine, but he said that when he got up, his friend got up and realized that he was shot. He laid back down, and he said that his friend was just bleeding out and he was freaking out. And that is why he was here at the hospital waiting. He said he even, like ran as fast as he can to get to this location after that incident happened, just to be here. He said that friend is one of the bravest people he's ever met in his life. And he was waiting to hear from him. He did receive a text message while we were out here together, saying that his friend is okay, that he didn't know if he was going to go into surgery or not, but that he is okay, and that he will be okay. So that's good news for that.
Yeah.
Um, I was also told that when the loved ones entered the hospital, some families for different victims were taken into separate conference rooms, and then others were put in the generic waiting area. So I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if that's just different information or just for privacy reasons they wanted to separate the family members. But we haven't received any updates on those conditions. We do know that the victims range from the ages of 19 to 39. Again, that's the college crowd, the young adults, even around my age, that decided, hey, it's Halloween, very normal. Everyone knows that downtown Orlando, just like the streets close off, they have, again, all the bars, all the clubs. It's a hot spot for any event, especially when it comes to Halloween. So it's just really unfortunate. It's crazy to think that this used to be an area that, again, faithfully, traditionally, myself and my friends included, we would come out for Halloween
Yeah.
and dress up and enjoy it, right? So it's just a really, really sad situation.
And, Angie, we continue to see video coming in. Everyone's got a cell phone these days. So capturing the chaos that ensued out there downtown. And you said a lot of folks were finding out about their loved ones being shot through social media when videos were being posted.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what really, like I told you, I got emotional. Even I was fighting back tears when I was talking to this family, because not only they're at the hospital, they're outside, they can't get in, and they're waiting to hear if their brother, their son is okay, and the only thing they have is that their loved one was shot, and then they have video that was sent to them on social media of their loved one laying on the ground, limp, just not even moving, law enforcement around him, and it was devastating. It was really hard video to watch, but they said that they have all of this social media footage that was sent to them. But again, not knowing what the condition at the time of their loved one was. And I still have no idea who their son was. The only thing that I know is that he was a black male. He's
Mm-hmm.
25 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and he was celebrating Halloween.
Yeah. Well, Angie, we appreciate you being out there and giving us this information. As soon as we learn more, of course, we'll post that on clickorlando.com. We'll check back in with you later on with more updates on this
For sure.
story. Thank you for joining us. And thank you all at home for joining us on Breakfast with Bridgett. I'm Crystal Moyer filling in. Of course, we will continue to following this breaking news alert, deadly mass shooting out of downtown Orlando as thousands of folks were celebrating Halloween. The 17-year-old suspect is in custody. Again, you can find out all the details on clickorlando.com. Have a good one. Be safe.